Hello, friends. I'm Sarah with Dandelion Seeds Positive Parenting, and today I am going to be talking to you about brain science, one of my favorite topics. However, I am going to bring on a friend of mine who I am trying to connect now. Her name is Sarah, and she is the Neuro Parent Coach. Sarah should be joining me here in 1 second. Right, and we will talk about neuroplasticity specifically. She should be here momentarily. Sarah, here you are.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Oh, I'm really good. I'm great. Thanks, honey.
Welcome. I am glad you're here. We are live on Instagram, and I can think of no one better than you, the Neuro Parent Coach, to talk about neuroplasticity. Can you tell our good friends here a little bit about your scientific history and what you have done?
Of course, of course. So, many years ago, I studied neurodiversity and neuroplasticity at university, and I was probably one of the first undergraduates to really kind of be involved in all the neuroplasticity that we now know and we understand about our child's brains. So it was the very early days and learning about that. And then when I graduated, I worked in the East End of London, which was an eye-opener. But I worked with some amazing neurodiverse children. They were all on the autism spectrum, and they were just phenomenal. They blew my mind. And the work that I'd done to that point was very much kind of in the lab, in the paperwork side of things. And this was real neurodiversity in action. You know, it was just amazing. And they just, to be honest, they blew me away with the way they saw the world, the way they thought differently about the world. And yeah, it was just the most beautiful relationship I had with them, and I was so honored and privileged to be on just that little part of their life journey, and they taught me so much.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that intro. Certainly knowing that you were one of the original people to discover the whole concept of neuroplasticity makes you a really interesting person to talk to when we are talking about what can we do with this information. Let me ask you about neuroplasticity as it relates to our children. Children seem to have this innate knack to pick up new things, to learn new habits. They don't have trouble letting go of their ways they do things as much as we adults do. What is it about the child's brain that makes them more receptive to learning new things than we older people?
So basically, when we're little, basically before the age of 7, we are very much like little sponges. You've probably heard the saying, like, children are like little sponges. Everything you see, that you say and you speak to them, and they hear and they absorb. They really do. Their brain just takes it all in, and it's a certain part of the brain that is working at that age. And it's only once we get to 7 and beyond that then our whole kind of brain starts to work together. So we are very plastic from that very young age. But I do have to say that as mums and dads, we can also change. You know, there's been a thought that it was kind of like a hard and fast stop at a certain age, and then we couldn't change. You know, we couldn't change our brain. But it's proven that it's so wrong, and even us mums and dads can change and adapt and grow and yeah, and just mold to the situation and the scenarios that we find ourselves in. So particularly if we do want to change the way we parent, it is totally possible. You know, it's anything is possible with our amazing brains.
I love that. So for the parent who, or anybody for that matter, who says, well, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I know what I know, and it is too hard for me to learn anything else. What do you have to say to that?
Yeah, I have to say it's not true. I mean, the problem with that is it's a mindset issue. And I know you probably hear lots about mindset, but that is a mindset issue because our brains can and they do change. So yeah, it's a process that we go through as we get older. There's different stages and different ways that we do it. When we're very little and our children do it, it's very natural to them. They don't have to consciously make a decision. But once we get to a certain age, we do start to consciously make that decision. So if we think we're an old dog that can't learn new tricks, we will always be an old dog. If we think that we can, then we will change and we will transform. But I have to say, to get rid of an old program, an old way of thinking, an old way of parenting does take a certain amount of time, because what we're doing is we're taking old thoughts and beliefs and old pathways in our brains, and we're actually erasing those completely, and we're building up like new tracks. If you imagine like a train track, we're building up new tracks in our brain. And once those tracks are in place and the old ones have gone, then you are a brand new parent. You can do and think any particular way that you want.
That is really encouraging. Now, let me ask you a little bit more about that. I know from brain science that I have been forming these neural connections that I have for many, many years. I am 46 years old, and it took 46 years to believe the things that I believe today. Is it going to take another 46 years to rewire what I've come to believe this far?
Yeah, no, not at all, not at all. So basically what we do, when you're trying to reprogram your brain in for a more positive way of thinking, a more positive parenting methods, your old programming way, you will automatically go to it. So if you are used to shouting at your child, if you're used to kind of maybe some kind of punishments or bribery techniques or naughty step, anything like that, your brain will automatically go to that because that's what it's used to. But to start a brand new pathway, it takes like 21 days. Which is really, really great. So you can do the work over 21 days. And then to really get rid of the old pathway as well, takes about 67 days, at least 67 to a year. So it's just very, very slow, but it's like, as parents, we have the opportunity 24/7 to practice building these pathways. We don't just kind of say, right, I'm going to do some pathway practice time. Like every opportunity that we sit with our parent or with our child, or we're just having maybe a heated moment or some time of stress, the universe just gives us the opportunities all the time. So it's just so lovely to be able to take those opportunities and just work towards the parent you really want to be.
So helpful. And that said, we know, to your point, it's not linear. We don't say, all right, I'm going to practice this for 67 days and then I'll have it right all the time forevermore. Never, ever going to go back to my old patterns. Why is it that we tend to have days where we struggle more, even when we feel like we should have broken this habit long ago? Because we passed the mile marker. We feel like we've gone far enough and enough time has passed that we shouldn't do this old thing anymore. What's going on neurologically when we do that?
Yeah, so when we do that, basically, as I was saying, we have to build new pathways and we have to erase the old pathways. And where you will find where you're struggling or where you're lapsing is when your new pathway and your old pathway, you're trying to run it at the same time. Our brains cannot run the two pathways at the same time. So you will go through a phase where it's wobbly, where 1 minute you think, I've got it sorted. I know exactly how I'm going to be. And you wake up in the morning with all the best intentions, but you will go through a phase where it's like, it literally is like laying a little path in your brain. And sometimes the connections aren't strong enough at that moment. But then once they are, it will become like autopilot. So what is autopilot for you now in the old way of working and just being with your child, or the way you parent, will become automatic with the new way. It's just literally repetition and just working over and over and building that strong path in your brain at the same time as that strong bond with your child. So it goes hand in hand.
Wonderful. I love that. So I can really picture this logistically and practically in my everyday life. Just decide that these old railroad tracks, these old neural pathways don't exist anymore. That train is still on that track some of the time. It's just a matter of which train do I practice getting onto more often. And
Yes.
that's why I'm still sometimes going to go, whoops, got on the wrong train today. I can get off at the next stop and get on this other train instead and choose a new path forward. I don't need to fall victim to being stuck on this emotional train with my own behavior as a parent. I can make a conscious choice, can't I?
You totally can. And that is the thing to do. So it really is every single day is to wake and to make that conscious choice of who you want to be. And you may not be being that parent at that moment, and that's okay. That's absolutely fine. But you know that you're on a different pathway. And so when you're on that different pathway, you can kind of catch yourself. And you can, you say to yourself, actually, no, this is what I used to do. And what I'm now going to do is something else. So once you're aware, and once you know that there's a process that you can go through to change everything, then that becomes that kind of foundational ground to always revert back.
Fantastic. So, final question for today. The brain is fascinating, and I know that we don't need to be in the moment with our child to start creating new neural pathways. What are some things we can do through visualization or otherwise that still have the same effect positively on our brain, even if our kid is nowhere near us at the moment when we're practicing these new skills that we want to develop?
Totally. So actually, that is the main key. So when we're building the new pathways, it is about visualization. Like I said before, you're not yet that person, that mom or that dad that you really want to be, but it's all about visualizing. How do you want to then work? So visualizations are great. Meditations are great. I love one thing. I don't know if many people know. It used to be the old like pictures on a wall. I now call it like the mind movie, where you can make it just on a really simple app, but you put images of the life that you want with your child, or how you want to be, how you want to feel, the experiences you want to have together, and you make like a little movie. And so yes, and then that's another aspect. The really great thing as well is with our brain, when we're starting to reprogram, is to bring in all of our senses. So I would also recommend music on there that's uplifting, that's inspiring, that really, takes you to that next level of who you want to be. Smell is so good. It could be something that takes you back to a really happy time, maybe with your child. And then there's other things like color as well. So add color. So it's a color that feels comforting or vibrant, or whatever you want to feel. Harness all of your senses in when you're working through that process.
Beautiful, because all of that multi-sensory experience helps to anchor us in the experience that we are creating in our brain to help it become habit as we go forth.
Yeah.
So, friends who are watching this right now, this is not neuroscience. My friend Sarah here is a neuroscientist. She knows the brain stuff. She is brilliant and wonderful. She is a personal friend of mine. She is a parent coach who specializes in neurodiverse children. She is new to Instagram. So where can we find you on Instagram, Sarah?
You can find me at the Neuro Parent Coach. That is my new home here. It's lovely. It's lovely to be on here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you again soon.
That's lovely. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Bye.